Fans of his TV programme will know as Merlin in Merlin, Tom Anderson in The Fall, or Leo Elster in Humans. And his latest screen role is in a British feature film set mostly in France called Waiting for You. It's directed by Charles Garrard and co-stars the celebrated French actress Fanny Ardant. So tell us about this film. There's a little bit of the quest about it, in a way similar to Andrea's film, but you received some information from your father effectively on his deathbed.
Absolutely. It's a little bit like Ariane just said, the generation that don't talk about their past, that don't share, and unfortunately those often come out when it's either on the cusp of being too late or is too late. My character Paul, he finds out a bit of information from his father in a very cryptic way on the deathbed, which leads him on a quest to find out, I suppose, who his father was, who is this man, being the age that Paul is as well. He's on the cusp of being a man, and certainly I think when you lose your father, you kind of become the main man in your own life.
You grow up. And your character hasn't quite decided what he wants to do. He's had thought about being an architect, and that's all gone a bit awry. But your father had fought in, I think, what we used to call the Aden emergency. So quite a tough period of fighting for the British Army.
Absolutely, and his friends are a part of that world, and so there is a lip-sealed sort of non-communicative response from them. So it leads him really with no options but to, on the little evidence that he's got, to go about things himself, which leads him to France. So
he's seeking out not his commanding officer, but an officer, Captain Brown, and tracking down, who is also dead by then, but tracking down what's gone on in his life and what it is your father has mentioned cryptically to you.
Yeah, absolutely. There's very little to go on, and the only possible lead is this house in the middle of a beautiful part of France, which is occupied by Madeleine, the mysterious Madeleine, who's played by Fanny Ardant.
So that's must be something to be acting with her. I mean, she's a very impressive French actress of many years standing, but I suppose it's nothing to you. You've acted with lots of people by now.
Oh well, it's always a pleasure to work with I think anyone, because you can never stop learning from anyone in any sector, whether that's an actor, whether that's anyone in the crew. There's always something to learn. For me, I didn't pick up too much French, admittedly, but it was a real pleasure to work with someone.
Did you play the game? A good game to play with French people, and I advise anyone at home to do this. Get them to try and say Smith's Crisps, because no French people can actually say Smith's Crisps.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oddly enough, it's not that necessary anymore, because we don't have Smith's Crisps anymore.
Oh no!
But it's a good line.
And definitely not in France.
Walker's is not quite. You don't know. You don't know what he means by Smith's Crisps, do you?
I don't actually.
No. So I mentioned all these great things you've been. I mean, Merlin was on for how many episodes? It's 60 episodes or something like that.
Around about that, yeah. We did, part of 5 years.
If that were the only thing you ever did, that would have built a huge following for you amongst the demographic that watched that.
Well, again, even just like you said, working with people, and if I was to write down that list and have a look, I think I'd feel, if you had handed me that maybe 10 years ago, I'd have said there's no chance I would have had that opportunity.
So you're able to learn how to do magic from Richard Wilson and the people around.
Well, maybe a different kind of magic, a magic with the people, and because someone like Richard Wilson, for example, is just loved by everyone, and there's no spells there. That's something unique to him. Yeah.
Was that your big breakthrough, getting that part, or you'd already been, as it were, discovered as an actor to be in the theatre?
Yeah, well, I'd say my first break was certainly a play at the Young Vic called Vernon God Little, directed by Rufus Norris. He really gave me my first opportunity, of him to thank for everything.
Do you miss being in the theatre when you're shooting films?
No, because I always go back to theatre. Always. It's often where my heart is, but I love the variety. It's about variety, I think, in life, and particularly for acting.
Yeah.
Well, you certainly had a big variety. I mean, Vernon God Little, that's a difficult book to put on stage in the first place.
Absolutely.
And then, did that lead directly to playing Merlin, or did you?
No, after that I went and I did a stage adaptation of Pedro Almodovar's All About My Mother at the Old Vic. Immediately after that, and then after that I went and did another play back at the Young Vic, so I basically lived on the cut for like the first best part of a year, and I had shot a couple of small episodes before that came along, and that was a journey that I didn't realise would take me in the ways that it did.
Yes, and that's presumably opened lots of doors as a result. And tell us about Humans, because in that you're half a man, half synth.
Yes.
So how did you get yourself into the synth part of that?
Well, I guess we all battle with several identities and several feelings going on inside us, and particularly for a character like Leo, who is half synthetic and half human. He wasn't either part of the human world nor part of a new technology that was becoming part of the world as it is now.
Clive is actually synthetic.
Oh, really?
100% though, I am. I've been created to a special BBC Radio 4 computer to fit this role.
They unplug him at the end.
Well, often better. Well, better to be maybe sometimes one thing or the other. I don't know. Me personally, I think it's always good to have the split and see where you belong. But that was his journey.
Well, thank you for taking Arthur's question seriously.
Well, I tried to put a spin on it. What can you do?
And people will know from your accent you're from a part of Ireland,
yes.
Or Northern Ireland. But was there a big drama acting tradition there that you were in your family or in your locality, in your school? How did you get going?
Yeah, not in my immediate family or in my family in general. Actually, it's always just been something that I feel has been instinctively in me to tell stories, to perform. The opportunities really weren't there for me growing up. So unfortunately, it got to that stage where you eventually had to leave if you wanted to proceed. But
you knew that's what you wanted to do?
100%.
Yeah. So I think you studied in Glasgow, the conservatoire there.
Yes, studied there. I was 18, best time of my life, loved it. Yeah. The training there is absolutely fantastic. I mean, without that experience, without that level of training, I just certainly wouldn't have had the connections and the confidence to go as far as I did.
All right, well, Waiting for You is in cinemas now. Thank you for joining us, Colin Morgan. That's the loose ends all tied up for this week. But as always, I should remind you, Loose Ends available as a podcast, so you can listen again to this week's show, as well as hearing interviews with recent star guests such as Jeff Goldblum, Ian Rankin and Sue Perkins. Indeed, you can access Loose Ends episodes going back for years and years. To do this, you can subscribe to the podcast on BBC Sounds. But my thanks to all of this week's guests, Colin Morgan, Michael Connolly and Andrea Riseborough, Baxter Drury and Koji Radical, Arthur Smith and Ariane Shireen. Next week, my guests will include the Hairy Bikers and Freddie Flintoff. But until then, from me for now, goodbye.